Part 42. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 412. On the way back to the room, Sugu said, "Sheik Hung, what did Xiangfeng tell you?" Akage said, "She didn't say anything. She was probably about to disembark. Please leave your address. She said she would like to come to our garrison to play when she has the opportunity in the future." I agreed. "Admiral, it doesn't matter. I agree to it, it's such a small thing. Speaking of which, when she saw you, your expression was just as weird and she didn't recognize you at all." Akage tugged at the hem of his skirt and said, "It's all your fault for letting me wear such clothes." "It's not the clothes, it's all your fault. You look like this. It didn't matter if I called you senior, but now I feel pressure to call you senior. Words like senior not only look at seniority, appearance is also very important. Just like in the garrison, even though Saratoga is the most powerful aircraft carrier, York City can call many people senior, sister or senior, but facing Saratoga, it is absolutely impossible to call them out. After I go back like this, Zeppelin and York City will probably not call me senior anymore," Akage said. She showed a troubled face, still a little worried. Returning to the room from the top deck, we talked about Washington and South Dakota. Guam said, "Admiral, remember South Dakota? Remember? Little chubby little black girl South Dakota. You are all bullying South Dakota. Wherever he is fatter, at most he is shorter. A true battleship of the old world, the USS South Dakota has a hull width similar to that of the North Carolina-class battleship, but is much shorter in length. Because of this, the battleship South Dakota comes across as fat." Then the South Dakota woke up from memory and history. In everyone's imagination, she became a little fat man. Guam said, "Admiral, you are not bad at all as a black man. It's not me who's being black, everyone is being black." Sugu laughed, remembering the time when he first started to leave the governor's mansion. "Many people were there to wish me good luck, some wished me a safe journey, some wished me good luck, some said remember to bring gifts back, and some said it would be better if the admiral came back soon." Even though he had just spanked Xiaozai, he still heard Xiaozai's childish voice say something like, "Admiral, Tirpitz misses you. The blessings from the small house are there, but the blessings from the big house are the same as not being there. I have heard a lot of blessings, and I still remember them carefully, making them unforgettable. Apart from blessings, there is one sentence that I heard the most and remember the most clearly before I left." Sugu said, "I remember when we left the townhouse, they told me to be careful of the South Dakota." When Guam heard Sugu's words, she was wearing a vest and raising her head. This style did not look like her at all, but more like Alaska. It took Guam a while to look at Sugu and said, "It's said to be careful of South Dakota, not just South Dakota, North Carolina, Washington. Anyway, there is nothing wrong with being careful. None of them are simple. I can understand being careful of the South Dakota, and I can understand being careful of Washington, but why should we be careful of the lovely North Carolina?" Guam shrugged his shoulders and smiled, looking like a Taoist man hiding his secrets. "But think about it, she is now the most familiar with those few people in the governor's mansion. It's not that she's the most familiar with them, she's the one who's seen them recently in the town guard's mansion, so she might know more secrets in the future." Consultant Su said, "Why should we be careful?" Guam didn't answer, and then said, "It doesn't matter, you are the admiral anyway, it doesn't matter, it really doesn't matter. When you say that, I'm getting more and more worried." However, Guam was unwilling to continue talking, and Sugu had no choice. He began to plan to pack his things, wondering whether to pack the clothes that he would not wear in the next 2 days. Sugu was sitting on the edge of the bed. He remembered that Akagi had shrunk and would have to buy clothes for her when she got off the ship. Her original clothes looked a bit too loose and draggy. Let's get off the ship in St. Sloven. First, we'll help Akagi buy clothes. Then, shall we take a train, a ship, or a plane? Planes are unsafe. For the ship girl, the safety of the admiral is the most important thing. Besides, there are no jet planes here, and propeller planes do give people an unsafe feeling. Guam said, as for the ship, there are only a few times a month, and you still need to wait for many days to take the ship. It is better to take the train. Counting the time on the car and the time to change trains midway, it only takes about 4 days. 5 days. Then take the train. I remember the time when my sister and I were wandering singers, walking from one city to another, eating and sleeping in the open. That should be interesting. It's not interesting. I've experienced it once, and I don't want to experience it again. Well, if I think about it now, I still feel it. Walking on the street, there is a warm light and people holding hands. Walking in the fields, there are large areas of golden corn. Heavy. Walking in the forest, there were wolves with green eyes at night. They were very smart and never attacked us. They probably sensed that we were not ordinary beings. We also saw bears and elk. No matter how I feel, I still like to stay in the town hall. My sister plays the guitar and I play the piano. The day after I came back, the Prince of Wales knocked on the door and told you to be quiet. When I got up in the morning, I looked at the townhouse from the window and the bell rang. And then everyone went to eat, which felt really good. Sugu smiled. Building the best townhouse has always been the goal. The best does not mean the most luxurious, but it must be the warmest. Guam added, speaking of which, Admiral, the counterattack should be the maid in the garrison. Yes. Did you give her the ring? No. Does she always like to be the last to go to bed? No. What exactly do you want to say? One night I had something to do and wanted to go out for a walk. I saw counterattack standing in front of your door in the corridor. That night you slept with Lexington or Bismarck, I don't remember. I saw counterattack that day. Go out, then she looked at me deeply and left. It feels a bit scary. How could a counterattack do such a thing? I lied to you. Guam added, that's weird. Anyway, you can make your own guess, Admiral Huaxin. Although it is dog food in the game, the real Guam is still very cute. Sugu said, speaking of which, where did Richelieu go? She should be in the library. I'll go find her later. Speaking of which, Akagi has grown up, and Richelieu must be under a lot of pressure. I guess so. Sugu thought of the notebook Richelieu left for him. That notebook was not returned to Richelieu in the end, but was placed in a drawer in his room. In the locked drawer, then the destroyer primary school students should not be able to look through it, they still know the appropriateness. In the small library on the cruise ship, Richelieu flipped through books, but most of the books here were just for entertainment, mostly entertainment books. There are novels, comics, etc., but there are no obscure professional books or history books at all. Guam found Richelieu and said, Richelieu, do you know? What do you know? It won't take long for us to disembark. That's it? Then I'll finish the book quickly and come back. Those books you read, well, actually, it doesn't matter even if we take away the books we borrowed here, the cruise ship doesn't care. They are cheap books anyway, and the expensive ticket has been paid for, the cruise ship doesn't mind this little thing. I hope everyone will come next time. As long as you don't take away a large box, it will be fine. If you really can't finish it, just take away a copy. It's almost finished. Guam looked at Richelieu. She took a book from the bookshelf and said, Richelieu also wants to grow up. With Akagi growing up like this, he has become very powerful. It's not just the ship suit that has become stronger. Now, we are good at many things. We originally mastered a lot of knowledge when we woke up. Now it is the second time we wake up, and we understand some things better. Richelieu usually had a straight face, giving the impression of a knight. But as Lexington said, Richelieu was quite romantic. How could a romantic person be truly serious and rigid? For example, Bismarck is a familiar and stereotyped knight but is a soft cat at heart. The Prince of Wales looks like a gangster brother and is as cute as a swimsuit, and Richelieu is still boring at best. Of course it's best to become stronger. That way you can protect the town fort. But the garrison does not need protection at all. There are already so many people, and they are still in such a safe sea area. It is rare to encounter danger. If they weren't stronger, it would probably be difficult for them to raise their heads in the garrison. Guam thought to himself, fantasy still needs to raise its head. She is definitely one of the naughtiest people in the town hall. Why she is so naughty is not because the admiral is spoiling her. She has always bullied others and no one can bully her. Not to mention Sukov, if he even showed a slightly aggrieved expression, the admiral would be as anxious as an ant on a hot pot. Guam said, I remember that the admiral likes big ships and cannons. The more powerful they are, the more he likes them. What does that have to do with me? Well, Guam put the book in his hand into the bookcase, thinking, how hypocritical, Richelieu. Richelieu and Guam returned to the room not long after. Richelieu saw Akage wearing a Lolita-style dress. Although she was in the room from the beginning, she didn't quite understand what the few people wanted to do. She asked, what did you start doing? Guam was a little funny when she thought about the original scene. She laughed and said, the admiral is really a bad person. I have never seen anyone like that. Sugu was also laughing, that scene was so interesting. When Shinkai discovered that Akage was Akage, 2 days had passed. It was because he had not seen Akage. After all, Akage obviously doesn't wear Guam's skirt every day, and then he spots Akage. At noon that day, he saw Sugu and yelled, you bastard. He who knows the current affairs is a hero, Sugu said, I am a bastard. You bitch. I'm a bitch. Then just like that, Shinkai felt it was boring, and then the two of them smiled and looked into the distance. The cruise ship should dock tomorrow. Where are you going next? Go to St. Sloven first and then transfer. You have to go somewhere far away to find someone. I heard, Washington and South Dakota, do you know each other? What do you think? I am a 100% boat fisherman. If you bring this up again, you deserve a beating. No more talking, what about you? I have a special car to receive you, and a classmate is here. I have something to do with him. I do things very quickly. I should take this cruise ship when I go back. I probably can't. It will probably be difficult to finish things in half a month. I should wait until the next cruise. Anyway, it won't be this cruise ship, but it doesn't matter. The new cruise ship will be easier to find. Speaking of which, are you really okay with having so many ship girls? It's hard to take care of them. You want to ask me how I feel? Sugu thought of Lexington, Bismarck, and Akage, each with his own experience. I also have 2 of the cutest sisters-in-law, the cutest little house, and many cute destroyers. Life can't be too beautiful. Sugu said, there are so many ship girls, it's so exciting. After saying this, Sugu saw Shinkai's expression twisted and ugly. When the cruise ship docked early the next morning, Sugu said goodbye to Wei Lian and Shinkai. The place they went to was different from the place he went to. There is a lot of traffic outside, and this is the city called St. Sloven. This is a big city, not inferior to Fujian City or Chuangzhou City. Buy your train tickets and snacks at noon, because you have to stay on the train for many days. In the afternoon, everyone boarded the train, and amid the clanging sound, the train drove into the distance. On the train, Sugu said, fortunately, I bought magazines and newspapers on the roadside. The cover of that magazine is Missouri, it doesn't look like it at all. It was a magazine about ship girls. After all, St. Slovens is right on the seaside, and everyone is familiar with ship girls. Have you seen Missouri? No. Then why do you think so? Feel. Guam added, Admiral, tell us a story. You are not little girls anymore. Then let's play truth or dare. Akage didn't express an opinion and said it was casual. Richelieu didn't express an opinion and then it was confirmed. After a game, Guam won. She looked at Sugu, which made people uneasy. Who does the admiral like the most in the governor's mansion? Sugu saw Akage pricking up his ears, and seeing Richelieu pricking up his ears, Sugu said, I like Xiaozai the most. To answer like this, I asked about the kind of love you like. No, one question at a time. Sugu turned a pencil and pointed it at Guam. Sugu laughed and said, haha, it's my turn, Guam, you will look good. Guam, do you have any fantasies about something evil? Advisor Su felt bored after asking this question. He was the admiral, and Guam was his ship's wife, even though it was not a wedding ship. If Guam is not fantasizing about itself but fantasizing about others, something big will happen. Guam's face turned red and she said, I still like my sister Alaska the most. Sugu didn't care too much about Guam not answering the question directly. He said, Lily. Richelieu, you turn the pen. Me? That's it? Sugu said, why me again? Then let me ask a question. When the admiral was holding on to fantasy, was he making any mistakes? A little bit, but I'm not a pervert, and I won't do anything to the destroyer. What about Fletcher? Although she is a destroyer, she is a girl. Guam, shut up and go to Akage to transfer your writing now. Ah, it's the admiral again. Let me ask a question. The admiral likes Xiaozai the most. Where have you kissed Xiaozai? You should only do it to me. Say it. I only kissed my forehead and face. It didn't have a good influence on other places. It was Guam's turn to turn the pen again. She smiled and said, it's still the admiral, I asked. I heard that when Beizai drew the book, he wanted the admiral to be a model. Did the admiral make any evil demands to Beizai? After spending a night on the train like this, Sugu got up early the next day and watched from the window as the train passed through small towns and fields. He saw farmers and occasionally people riding horses passing by. People. Guam woke up, her hair messy, and she said, that's the cowboy of the West. I think of a word, wilderness, but I can't remember the specific story. Richelieu actually woke up a long time ago, but she didn't speak. She just listened. She looked out of the car window with her side face, then turned back to look at Sugu. He was talking to Guam. Richelieu said, Admiral. How? Nothing, I just want to call you. Richelieu looked out the window, feeling really hopeful that the train would keep going like this without any end. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 413. Gasca is a world-famous city located on the west coast. It has the largest port here, crossing the Atlantic Ocean to the western continent. The transportation is convenient, and it has become prosperous because of shipping. What the city was called in the Old World is uncertain. No one knows whether it was called Washington or New York. After all, someone once discovered the ruins of a city under the sea. Who knows how much of this continent has been swallowed up by the sea, and which city is which? Maybe there was nothing here before. Some people say that if the attacks of the deep-sea ship girls are not stopped, the sea will continue to swallow the land, because the appearance of the deep-sea ship girls is the anger of the sea. This statement is very popular in the religious field, but many scholars scorn it and think it is completely nonsense. After all, the deep-sea ship girl has been around for so many years, and there has never been a rise in sea levels. They put forward two theories about this situation: sea level rise and widespread collapse of the continent. But even if there are only two opinions, there is no conclusion yet. Speaking of which, some well-known scientists joined the religious field because they saw the magic of ship girls and deep-sea ship girls. Some people lamented that this was the darkest era in the development of science. Gaska, there are tall buildings, crowded streets, many shops, candy shops, watch shops, restaurants, etc. The sun shines on the ground from between the tall buildings. Most of the people walking here are blonde people with hurried expressions. There were salesmen walking by with business bags under their arms, ladies walking by holding handbags and parasols, and tall beauties wearing sexy clothes walking by. There were many people walking by. Young men wearing peaked caps nodded and bowed, handing out leaflets everywhere. The newsboy held a large pile of newspapers and asked people one by one if they wanted to buy newspapers. The beautiful girl looked at the new products in the cupboard of the roadside shop: a wide-brimmed hat with a veil and fireworks, and a white sleeveless dress. She looked salivating, and then touched her pockets, feeling shy about her money. There are many cars and trolley buses here. In short, it is quite lively and lively. However, if you look to the sky for a bird's eye view, this is just an insignificant corner of the entire city. Jaska is a vibrant city with various factories and high-rise buildings. As long as you want, you can always find your own job and your own status here. This was the best of times, but it was also the worst of times. Although the city looks prosperous on the outside, there is also a lot of filth inside. Capital tries to intervene in politics through the resources it has and tries to control its mouthpiece through the media. Government officials also engage in extortion, and they even completely disregard the development of the country for the sake of votes. Of course, there is no denying that there are many philanthropists among capitalists, and there are also many officials who truly care about the country. There is no shortage of places for filth and evil in a city, and there are even many mafias in the city. Drugs, guns, theft, even kidnapping and murder, they do all kinds of evil. Zico Street is located in the western suburbs of Jaska City. There is a large forest park and a lake next to it. This is a fairly safe neighborhood in Jaska because there are no slum refugees or religious extremists around. It's not discrimination. The existence of these two types of people is indeed a very unstable factor. Although there are good people here, there are more bad people. There is no political correctness here these days. Under the dense oak trees, next to the red-painted fire hydrants, there was a black car parked here. There were two people in the black car. They were staring at the little girl in front of the street. A little girl or a girl? The little girl had long silver hair and a petite and slender figure. However, despite her petite and slender figure, she was wearing a large t-shirt and pants. She looked like she had picked up her sister's clothes. But that set of clothes was not old clothes, it was obviously new clothes that had just come on the market. It was unclear to the two of them why they had to buy clothes that were so loose and even draggy. Could it be that they are worried about growing up quickly, so it is better to buy a bigger one? Little girls of this age do grow taller and grow up very quickly. But that shouldn't be the case, because they knew that the little girl's family was not the most common civilian family in Jaska City. There are several most respectable and profitable professions in Gaska, including doctors, government servants, and lawyers. The little girl's family has a well-known lawyer in Jaska, who is obviously not short of money. Why do you know that the little girl's family is a lawyer? Because they are here for this purpose. The boss said, "Catch her and blackmail the lawyer." The lawsuit can't continue. I don't know why I want to attack the little girl. It's not in line with my principles, but the boss has a request, and I can't help it. Anyway, I don't know why I don't just go to the lawyer. I heard that the lawyer is very skilled in martial arts. He can fight and sanda and has an axe. Have you heard those stories from the East? He can fly over the roof and walk over walls, and he has the power of 9 cows and 2 tigers. He is called a hero. Oriental? Those people travel all over the world. They hate those Oriental square characters the most. They are too difficult to learn, but these characters are used the most now. I heard that Oriental Kung Fu is very powerful. There was a movie last month that told the story of Kung Fu. But I know that those Kung Fu are all fake. Besides, no matter how powerful a person is, he will not be killed by a gun, so I just said, take the gun and find the lawyer and find the woman. I heard that the woman is very beautiful, maybe we can have a good time. One night. Stop talking, let's do whatever the boss wants us to do. This time it's her. But there are too many people around, so it's hard to do anything. What was she doing standing there, looking at balloons, kites, or puppies? The poor little girl didn't know what fate was waiting for her next. She's walking forward. Drive and follow her. Don't lose her. Turn around, turn around. She went into the alley. Among the two people, a man with a tattoo on his shoulder was sitting on the passenger seat. He looked around and saw that it was already out of a relatively busy street and it was quiet. At this time, it was obvious that the opportunity was rare, and he said, "There is no one around, let's get off the car, it's here. Remember to bring that big windbreaker to wrap the person up, as well as the ether towel and rope." Ether towel, I don't know if it's useful or not. I think it's best to knock it off with a stick, anyway. Poor little girl, poor little beauty. Watching the little girl in front of her walk around the corner of the alley, the tattooed man said, "Billy, don't talk so much nonsense, or the boss will kill you if you're embarrassed. It's so chaotic here, and there are 2 bad guys following me." This is what the little girl North Carolina is thinking now as she walks in the alley. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai-De-Rong Yan. Chapter 414. In the past, I thought that crimes were far away from me. Ever since I followed my sister Washington to Gasca City, and since my sister became a lawyer, I have heard a lot about crimes in a short period of time. There were thefts and murders happening everywhere. I heard that the daughter of the family next door had been kidnapped before, and the police drove to the door. She was eventually found naked lying in a corner of the city. Although that person is not a good person, he has dyed hair, earrings, tattoos, and I heard he is promiscuous, but he looks like he has been ruined by many people, which is really tragic. My sister always likes to tell herself about the cases she has encountered, and now she feels more and more that the whole city is full of dangers. Normally, she was fine, but today she felt the most intuitive. She discovered that 2 people with evil intentions were following her. She was not a child who didn't understand anything. She noticed very early that someone seemed to be staring at her. She wondered if she was being sensitive, so she deliberately walked to a remote place. Then when he walked into the alley, he immediately saw 2 people following him. She was worried about whether she would be in danger, so she went to a dangerous place to experiment. To outsiders, this little girl's idea was probably funny. However, she is indeed not afraid of bad people and is confident that no bad person can hurt anyone. Why are you following me? Do you want emergency syrup? I don't have any. There are all kinds of messy things in my head, which are what I heard from people in the past. I still don't know why chasing people is related to jizhijiang syrup. Want to kill or kidnap? Walking through alleys and corners, even though she knew there was danger, she did not run away immediately. At the corner of the alley, there is an iron gate at the end. It is probably someone's villa in front of it. Next to the iron gate, it was another family's backyard, planted with short shrubs. There were several steps from the ground to the back door, and then she sat on the steps. North Carolina was sitting on the steps, and then she saw two men chasing her. She said, "Why are you following me? It's quite impressive. You can actually find us, but you can't leave. If you want to ask why, ask your sister." North Carolina tilted her head and said, "Sister, I don't have a sister. What you probably want to talk about is my sister." The tattooed man remembered that in the morning, they saw the beautiful lawyer with white hair tied into a ponytail in the photo given by his boss. What a big deal that a tall, mature beauty is actually the little girl's sister. Another man named Billy said, "You are stupid, stupid girl. Come with us honestly, we won't hurt you. When your sister gives up the lawsuit, we will let you go. Otherwise, if you resist, we don't guarantee what will happen, your hands or feet will be broken. If your face scratch it, you will definitely feel very sad in the future. Besides, there are many men in the slums who only like little girls. I do know a person who likes little girls." I thought to myself that the little girl North Carolina said, "You are bad people, don't come here, I am very powerful." The little girl said this in a childish tone, obviously without any threat. The two men looked at each other, then laughed and said, "It's awesome, ha ha ha, don't say you can also do Eastern Kung Fu. What's that called, Wing Chun or Tai Chi, or snake boxing?" "Snake, I have changed my mind now, unless your sister gives up the lawsuit, I still want her to stay with me for one night. Stop talking bad about my sister, or I will get angry." "What did you say, angry? Then show me your anger." The two grown men felt a little funny and kept laughing. They have seen many kidnapped people, including high-ranking officials, rich men, and celebrities. Some people shouted for help, some begged for mercy, and some resisted and ran away, but I never saw anyone say such words as "I'm going to be angry." What's the use of being angry? It's useful. There are so many fights and injuries in the world. In short, now the two of us are looking at each other, and we don't know whether to laugh at the little girl's stupidity or to praise the little girl's courage. They don't have any worries about the little girl wanting to be angry. Can the little girl still deal with two grown men? Even if the little girl learns some taekwondo, wrestling, karate or even the magical Eastern Kung Fu, the cat, no matter how strong and agile it is, cannot deal with the bear because the two sides are not of the same weight. Even in boxing, there are still many levels of feather, fly, etc., because the advantage brought by weight is too great. He was worried that the little girl would hit someone. Rather, he was worried that the little girl would run away at this time, which might make it difficult to catch the person. I advise you not to run away. At least we won't kill you." The two people walked up eager to control the little girl in front of them, imagining that she might run away. At this time, they saw the little girl sitting on the steps and she began to take off her shoes. Even the bad guys are curious. Billy, holding the ether towel, asked, "What are you doing taking off your shoes?" "Because it's better to wear bigger clothes and pants, but shoes that are too big will be uncomfortable, so take them off." "What and what, I'm asking you why you took off your shoes." "Because I'm going to be angry, and she's going to show up, and if she shows up, the shoes won't fit." "She, what she?" The two men looked around. This was a secluded alley. It was obvious that no one would be following them, so they couldn't fly into the sky. Then I thought to myself that the two of us were suspicious and had been fooled by the little girl. "How dare you scare us? I'm going to break one of your arms." The little girl North Carolina sat on the steps and curled up, holding her knees with her hands and burying her head between her legs. "I don't want to. You want to kidnap me, and I'm going to be angry. You want to cause trouble for my sister, and I'm going to be angry. No, you can't be angry, she's going to appear. I can't control her anymore, she's going to appear." The originally childish voice of the little girl North Carolina became more and more cold by the end, as if she was a different person. As an ordinary person, if you don't dare to take action, you should leave the matter to me. What about me, she? I am the owner of this body, and you are the false personality and memory. No, there are no two personalities. It took too long to become a little girl, and I was confused. A confused voice rang out, "You, what's wrong with her?" The two men said this, and then they saw the little girl stand up from the crouched state, and then gradually became taller, and the originally loose clothes and pants became suitable. The little girl suddenly turns into an adult. The scene is a bit scary, but the other person is so bizarre that it feels natural, as if this is what the little girl should be like. What appeared in front of them now was a mature and tall beauty with a plump figure and long, strong, and sexy legs. Her whole body exuded wild charm, which reminded people of the word female leopard. However, the front end of the beauty's bangs is reddish, and there seem to be feathers behind her, which is reminiscent of a North American cardinal. The supernatural image makes people feel frightened, and the two men don't know whether to move forward or back. However, he was a member of a gang after all. His body was already shaking, but he still didn't run away. "You, who are you?" The tall beauty North Carolina sneered, rubbed her knuckles and twisted her neck. "Have you ever heard of a ship girl? I am the battleship USS North Carolina. Nice to meet you. You are a ship girl, you can't attack us. You were the ones who wanted to attack me first, I just resisted. Don't come here, we have guns. Then shoot, shoot." Trembling, and then suddenly there was a sharp shooting sound, the bullet hit North Carolina's body and then bounced away. It bounced off like a bullet hitting heavy steel. Fear filled the alley. They wanted to escape, but they couldn't take a step at all. "The bullet won't hurt me, but it still hurts a little. I should say it's a little itchy." Slapping, punching, throwing over the shoulder, whipping. "You wanted to kidnap me, so I resisted. I don't want to kill anyone. Hatred will only breed more hatred. Just keep one hand and one leg for each person. Do you want to keep your left hand or right hand, left foot or right foot? Feet. Forget it, I have that and so on. Yes, I have difficulty choosing, so I'd better keep my hands and feet. After all, if I were kidnapped by you, I don't know how miserable it would be." A wailing sound could be heard from the deserted alley, which lasted for a long time. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai-De-Rong Yan. Chapter 415. It is white with a hint of ice blue, and her long hair is tied into a ponytail with a hairband. She has a figure that can be called tall, plump, and exquisite, with convex places and concave places. I can't say how explosive her figure is, but she has no problem as a model. She has a delicate appearance, almond-shaped eyes, and a sharp nose. She looks like a mixture of East and West, combining both kinds of beauty. In short, she can be called a great beauty no matter how you look at it. So with such beauty, she will naturally get a lot of love. However, the woman named Washington is holding a pen in one hand and holding her forehead with the other, looking troubled. Appearance. Ordinarily, given her condition, it would be difficult for her to have anything to worry about. She shouldn't worry about work issues. She is a well-known barrister. She shouldn't worry about marriage, she is far from being a leftover girl. Besides, here in Jaska City, people never have any objection to a woman not getting married because she is older. Besides, as a beautiful woman, she has no shortage of suitors, because she is not a flower vase, but a very powerful lawyer, intellectual and beautiful, and there is never even a lack of heavyweight contestants around her. Even if you are tall, rich, and handsome, it is just an entry requirement. However, she has no interest in the so-called pursuit. Rather than accompanying someone on a date, She is far less interested in going to the zoo to feed giraffes. The reason why she felt troubled was simply because of the endless entanglement of the man in front of her. As a beautiful woman, it is impossible for her to have no one pursue her. However, most people usually just reject her once, but the person in front of her seems to be particularly tenacious and persistent, which makes people feel troublesome. The young man in front of her is her client. He often comes over because of a small legal issue, bringing with him a large bouquet of flowers. Since you are a customer, it is best not to speak harshly to you. Stop talking like that. I've done some research. You don't have a boyfriend or a husband. Now you live in an apartment on Zico Street. There is only one sister with you. I don't know if you have met her before. What happened? Was it hurt by being abandoned by a heartless person or something? Maybe you had a very tragic experience, and you went through very painful things. But no matter what happens to you, I don't care. Blonde and blue-eyed, he can definitely be called a handsome guy among Westerners. In addition, his family conditions are excellent, so he has the confidence to be entangled. However, his words seemed a little self-righteous. But combined with the white-haired woman's usual behavior, she never attends any gatherings except for work, and never accepts invitations from any man, so it often makes people doubt her past, so this sentence doesn't seem too strange. Hearing this was enough to make many women scream and fall into their arms. However, Washington shook his head and said, I don't have a husband, nor do I have a boyfriend. But, I have a girlfriend. She has long, wavy hair, short with wheat-colored skin, very pretty and cute, but a little fat and a little silly. She likes me very much and is very excited every time she sees me. Now she works in a convenience store. If you meet her, she's in Downing Street. If you see her and give me my name, she'll be happy to give you 11% off your purchase. The man looked a little dazed. A beautiful girl's girlfriend, what's going on, Lily? But I have never heard that the other party has any hobbies for women. Goska is an open city, and there is no shortage of gays here. Among the people he knows, there is a Lily and a gay couple. Think about it again, the other person has long hair and often wears smart attire. In the eyes of many women, he is probably very beautiful and handsome. But if it was true that he was gay, why didn't any news come out at all? And what the hell is a 11% discount? It must be an enemy. It seems that I will be in vain again, but it doesn't matter, there will always be a day when I will be moved by myself. Thinking like this, the man said, even if you say so, I will not give up. With that said, he was ready to leave. Washington watched the man prepare to leave and wanted to settle the matter. She said, wait a minute. Just as the man was about to step out the door, he was happy when he heard Washington's words, but then he heard Washington say, what do you like about me? Seeing the man in front of him turn his head, Washington continued, what do you like about me? Can't I change it? The expression on the man's face was a bit astonished. Washington sighed and said, don't send flowers next time. I'm very busy and I'm too lazy to refuse over and over again. It's too troublesome. If you continue to come to me for these childish legal issues next time, my lawyer consultation fee will be increased by another 50%. 50% to 50%, I can still afford this amount of money. Don't ask me why, because I liked you from the first moment I saw you. The young man is the most troublesome, the most self-righteous, and seems to be going to be cruel. Thinking of this, Washington reached out and picked up the flowers in front of the table and walked in front of the man. What do you like about me? Gentle. You're right, I don't have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, but I have someone I like. I'm still here because I think he will come back one day. Someone has been spreading the news recently that the boss of Golden Oak Real Estate, if the young master pursues me, I will definitely agree. Hey, you are the big boss and I am a small lawyer. Many people must think so. But I hate such rumors and misunderstandings. If the person I like knows about it, it will be troublesome. Now that fatty Nan is always muttering, "You traitor, traitor, you are so troublesome. You have sent flowers 5 times. I have told you not to send me flowers again. It was because of business before. I just reminded you, but you have gone too far. Now I am officially informing you that I don't like you. Hate you too." Washington has his own character, even if the people in front of him have too much influence on his small office. But what she hates is what she hates. When she encounters such a person, she will decisively reject him. Saying this, in order to make the man in front of her give up, she reached out and took the entire bouquet placed on her desk, and smashed it into the man's face with lightning speed. If you think I have a bad character, just be bad. My character is just that bad. If you are annoying, I want to kill you with an axe. The whole bouquet of flowers hit his face, and the man was in a daze. Then the white-haired woman in front of him didn't look apologetic, she just crossed her arms and looked expressionless. The man didn't know what expression to show for a moment. After all, it was too humiliating. If it were someone with a bad temper, he would probably have started a fight. The man had a good temper and just kicked the bouquet that fell on the ground and left immediately. He was afraid that he would not be able to control his emotions. The man left and Washington sat on the bench in the office. She looked to the side and saw that her assistant hadn't come over yet. No one praised her for being so handsome, which was really annoying. Washington continues to mind its own affairs, as there is a rather sticky legal battle these days. She was thinking about what laws and regulations to use, when a little girl walked in. "That is a small figure, that is my sister. Although she is a sister, or maybe she is her own daughter, because judging from her appearance alone, the other party is too young. My sweet little North Carolina. Don't put small letters in front of my name. You should call me sister. I won't call you sister unless you look like someone else. You look like my sister. Everyone thinks you are my sister, and I'm afraid some people believe you when they say you are my daughter. Okay, next time, just say you are my daughter. Isn't your daughter Sigsby?" Washington thought of the little girl Sigsby. She did look similar to him, whether it was appearance or hairstyle. However, there is absolutely no relationship between the two people. It was just a way of saying that a boring man called him out. The same goes for Bismarck and Nelson's daughter Raffi, all of whom came from the same man's bad taste. Washington shook her head and decided not to think about the past anymore. She said, "Why did you want to find me here today? No, you come here often. I mean, have you transformed recently? You actually spoke in this tone. I have been a little girl for too long, and my emotions have been affected. If this continues, I am afraid that I will turn into a real little girl. You asked why I transformed today. I was outside today and met 2 people who wanted to kidnap me. Who is so bold?" Many people would be very worried when they heard about the kidnapping case, but Washington showed no signs of worry at all. After all, the experience of kidnapping a battleship girl with the highest level of training was probably more tragic than an egg hitting a stone. There is no need to worry. Although my sister usually maintains the form of a little girl, if she doesn't want to restrain her temperament, her personality will become like that of a little girl. However, once she is angry or scared, the little girl will immediately change into another person and become a heroic warrior. It's like a dual personality. The older one is considered her elder sister, and the younger one can only be regarded as her younger sister. North Carolina recounted his experience, and only then did Washington know what was going on, and it was because he helped others litigate. "The other party sent someone to look for me a few days ago, wanting to give up on her own, but she didn't. At that time, she was clamoring to look good for herself. However, I just thought about my own situation and didn't pay much attention to it. I didn't expect that this time. I actually wanted to take action against North Carolina and took the courage of a leopard. They started shooting. You cut off the hands and feet of those two people. No, it's too bloody to cut it off. It's just broken. Even if it's connected, there's no way to use too much force in the future. Then you said you wanted them to keep their hands and feet. I thought you chopped off their hands and feet with your axe. It's a slip of the tongue. Even if I want to kill them, I don't like killing them. If they cut off their hands and feet and bleed profusely, they will definitely die. I don't want them to die yet. After North Carolina finished speaking, she didn't pay much attention, she just wanted to remind Washington. Then she yawned and said, "It's too tiring to maintain that form. I want to go back to sleep." Washington said, "When you wake up, you will leave again. If you want to leave or not leave, both of you are me. Now I'm just too lazy to restrain myself anymore. Just be a little girl." Washington pursed her lips and said, "If you are too tired, then go back to sleep." Seeing North Carolina leaving, Washington suddenly said, "Would you like to bring you ice cream when you go back this afternoon? In addition to ice cream, I also want cake." There are many complications in transforming into a child. North Carolina left, Washington looked uncertain, and her aide returned shortly afterwards. "Sorry, eldest sister, I'm late. When I went out at noon, I noticed someone staring at me. I had a hard time getting rid of those people, so I came here at this time." "It's okay, no problem. Then what are we going to do today? Do we still need to continue to understand the case? How dare they, not just kidnapping their own sister, but also stalking or trying to kidnap their assistant?" "No need, you taught me about the lawsuit. I know how to solve the problem." Washington was holding his own axe under his desk. How to solve the problem must of course be solved using Washington's method. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai-De-Rong Yan. Chapter 416. Life on the train for many days. This is just an ordinary train. On a hot day, there is no air conditioning on the train, not even a fan. If he were still in college, Sugu would probably feel aggrieved as soon as the initial fresh feeling wore off. Life on a train is undoubtedly much bleaker than life on a cruise ship. After all, the cruise ship is big and luxurious enough, with swimming pools, libraries, and even casinos. Even if you don't want to go to these places, you can just walk around to relax when you get bored. The carriages on the train are narrow, and although there are not many people, it is a monotonous and repetitive carriage to walk around. However, Sugu was not alone this time. He had 3 beauties around him, so his life was not difficult. Although because of the relationship between Guam and Richelieu, it is difficult to be too intimate with Akagya. Life on the train is mostly chatting these days. The first time I met Xiaozai was in the ruined townhouse. I was wearing sunglasses at that time, so she couldn't recognize me, so she pointed a small pistol at me. I didn't feel scared because she was so cute. Now that I think about it, maybe it's because she is my ship's wife, and I feel close to her. "Admiral, ask me about Kang Xiang's past." She didn't have many friends at that time because she always liked running. Although others couldn't run her, she still liked to laugh at people. She always liked to fall down and break her socks. Lose. Talking about the small house, talking about fantasy things, Guam tells the story of himself and his wandering in Alaska. Akagya talked about how he and Kaga were together in the past, and mentioned that the academy will be recruiting new students during this period, and Zeppelin will probably be very busy. Richelieu's story is more exciting than everyone else's story. After all, it has exotic scenery and fighting. As Richelieu said, Sugu thought of the Italian combination, and he asked Richelieu if he had any Italian little Luo. News from the underworld. If you know, I have told you before. But they should be together. They left together before. In addition to chatting, I also occasionally play games, such as truth or dare or water punishment games. Sugu always loses in the drinking water punishment game, because they are all ship girls, and their stomachs are like bottomless pits. During the journey of several days, there would also be fights with running cards or landlords. However, whether Sugu was a farmer or a landlord, he was always the one being fought. Richelieu, I feel like you are much more cheerful and talkative than before. You haven't talked to me before, so what kind of person do you think I am? Sugu didn't dare to say the word Menzeo. Occasionally, I chatted with some people during the journey. I met a young couple who got on the bus on the way, and Sugu introduced them to each other. Akaga said, his wife, wife, wife. Guam said wickedly next to him, I am his elder sister, and my younger brother has caused trouble for you. Richelieu said with a smile, his eldest sister. Sugu said, my two maids. Akaga said, child bride. Facing the dumbfounded look of the couple, Sugu explained, well, I'm an Oriental. Guam listened, she stretched out her foot and kicked Sugu's calf. What a bastard. I don't deny that eating people's tofu takes advantage of others. Sugu still wants to complain, but you are obviously the one who started it, and even if you want to kick him, you are kicking Sheik Hung, and you will only pick on the weak. Without the internet and convenient transportation, many people actually don't know much about things in other countries. In the end, the old couple could only nod. They didn't know that even in the East, monogamy was basically the system, and there was no such thing as a maid. As we get closer and closer to Jaska City, of course we will talk about the affairs of several people in Washington. In fact, these words have been said before, and now they are just mentioned again. Washington is working as a lawyer. Although she is a lawyer, her working style is very wild. Generally, when we ship girls are looking for jobs, many of them are related to ship girls. But if we are not engaged in things related to ship girls, everyone still prefers them. Conceal your identity, otherwise you will always encounter strange looks. Others will treat you as a different person, and that kind of look makes people very uncomfortable. Although Washington usually hides her identity, she has always been unwilling to suffer losses when doing things. She has never been afraid of the identity of the ship girl being known, and then she was timid. The identity of the ship girl has been exposed many times, and until now she knows a lot of people. Otherwise, how could we be recommended to work as escorts on cruise ships, because she knows the admirals in these places, and then knows the senior executives of the companies on the cruise ships. North Carolina, it's a little girl now. Sugu remembered that the big broken portrait in North Carolina was clearly UG. Facing Sugu's doubts, Gwanda said, although she always maintains two forms, she actually has many forms. The lowest form I have seen should be 10 years old. But I think the lowest form should be 5 years old. If you are younger, it will be inconvenient to move. The oldest form is probably around the age of 28. These are all inferences. There is no rule about what you must look like at the age of 28. That number is a number I made up at random. You'd better not ask her if she's 28 anyway, especially if you say Obazan, even North Carolina's character will beat you up. Sugu said, I'm not stupid yet. Fat Nan, you must have heard a lot about her. She has always liked you. When you left before, she was the first to take away the oath ring you left in the office. Then she went everywhere say, you gave her the ring. Many people who know the situation don't believe it, but some destroyers still believe it. It is said that Quincy believes it. Anyway, many people say that she is a perverted admiral. You should be careful when you meet her. What you mean by this is that our lovely Ovo is so stupid that he even believed such rumors. Washington is working as a lawyer. In fact, she can do many things. She just became a lawyer if she wanted to be a lawyer. North Carolina maintains the appearance of a little girl. She is not a real little girl like Destroyer, nor is she as thorough as Veneto. A pseudo-lowly, North Carolina is somewhere in between. She has no need to go to school or work, and then spends her days doing nothing. Compared with Washington, the South has little culture. She has no education, but she always likes to compete with Washington. She can't do all the jobs that Washington can do. Anyway, she can't be a white-collar worker. If she wants to be a chef, she can't do it. Food. To be a salesperson, you can only earn a dead salary, and you can't get any performance benefits. Anyway, when I left, she still had to rely on Washington's relief. They like friends. When I left, she was working as a waiter in a restaurant. Sugu said, Nanda is fat. The train arrived at its destination, Jaska, on the 5th day and found South Dakota's restaurant at noon. It was a Western restaurant. Several people went in and expressed their desire to find the South Dakota, but they heard the waiter say this. Look for her. She has been working here for a month. In just 1 month, she broke 20 plates, spilled 3 bowls of soup, and pulled the wrong switch once, causing a power outage in the entire restaurant. The customer is God. She had 2 quarrels with a beautiful white-haired woman in the restaurant and beat the table. The boss was helpless. If you ask her where she is now, how do I know? Coming out of the restaurant, Richelieu said, South Dakota is so useless. Sugu said, Nanda Fang pulled the wrong switch. There is nothing wrong with him. This cannot be blamed. Akaga said, I thought I could have a big meal in the restaurant. Later, let's find someone first. Let's go find Washington. Washington shouldn't be so unreliable. Guam looked up at the streets in the distance and said, then let's go to her law firm in Washington. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 417. Is this where the Washington law firm is? Sugu raised his head and looked at the building in front of him, saying that the building was actually just an ordinary tall building. The facade on the first floor is a large shopping mall that looks good. There are various signs hanging on the second, third, and higher floors. It is obvious that there are quite a few companies in this building. Just to open an office in a place like this, the office in Washington must not be big. Guam pointed to the sign hanging upstairs and said, that's the sign of Washington's office. Where? The sign on the far left on the 4th floor. The aroma of wine is also afraid of the deep alley. It seems that no one is exempt from vulgarity. There are many advertisements that should be done and the signboards that should be put up should not be forgotten. Sugu said, go up from inside the mall. There's a little door on the side. You can find those companies by going up the stairs at the side door. Washington's company is on the 4th floor. In today's world, there is no elevator at all in ordinary places, and several people need to climb up slowly. I was still a little surprised when I found Washington's office. I didn't see Washington inside, only Washington's assistant. I have been here several times in Guam, otherwise I would not have found it. She and Washington's assistant were considered acquaintances. Although they had not met a few times, they barely exchanged a few words. Washington's assistant, a girl with short blonde hair. He looks like an ordinary person, with light freckles on his face and a decent appearance. She is not a pretty girl, but she looks very energetic. It is said that he is a top student in the law school. As for why he works in a law firm in Washington, it is not clear. Considering that although Washington is a ship girl, he is also a well-known barrister, which is not surprising. Of course, it is still puzzling that a barrister only has such a small office. However, although there are not many people in the office, the decoration is very good. Guam saw the assistant, waved and shouted, "Betty." When Assistant Betty saw Guam, she looked surprised and said, "Andrea." As a ship girl, she always has her own name outside, which is okay when facing an admiral, but when facing ordinary people, she usually doesn't say what she is, a destroyer or a battleship. That's too strange. For example, San Juan was originally named Qinying, sister-in-law Saratoga was still named Shenxia, Zeppelin was named Catherine, and Andrea was named Guam when she was outside. Although ship girls have names, they are often quite insincere and may change at any time, unlike ordinary people who are accustomed to recognizing their own names. Guam said, "Where's Kristen?" Christine is Washington's current pseudonym. Whenever Sugu hears this name, he always feels that it doesn't match Washington's image. Then Guam and his assistant Betty started talking, and Sugu said to Akaga next to him, "Do you understand?" Somewhat reluctantly. Sugu said, "Absolutely." Chinese is not the only language in this world, although Chinese is quite widespread due to its spread. Sugu remembered the first time he went to see the Prince of Wales. At that time, passers-by could hardly understand what he was saying. Of course, since you don't understand, you need to learn afterwards. If you want to learn, learning is quite simple if you have a language environment. Although I am not very good at it now, I can still understand basic conversations. Sugu looked around and said, "How much money do you think Washington makes in a month?" Akaga said, "I don't know. A lawyer seems to be a person with a very high upper limit and a very low lower limit. He is exhausted and starves to death. It's not like the admiral. The Africans only have destroyers, while the Europeans are worried that too many battleships will consume too many resources. You have to ask Richelieu how much he eats at one time." Richelieu was looking at the filing cabinet next to the window. She didn't know why her admiral had involved her again, but she was very clear about her admiral's habit of trying not to make anyone feel slighted no matter what the occasion. Guam communicated with his assistant Betty for a moment, then returned to Sugu and said, "Betty said Washington went to deal with the matter." Sugu said, "How about we wait here? She should be back soon." After speaking, Sugu thought for a while and continued, "I think it's better to go directly to her house. You should know where it is." Guam said, I know, but if you can't find anyone in the office, then you won't be able to find anyone at home. North Carolina is not a homebody like Bazai, who will stay in the room reading comics all day long. Currently, in the town hall, only Bazai and Zayazai like to stay in their rooms and read comics. Zayazai will become Bazai when he grows up. This is almost the consensus of everyone in the town hall. Of course, Zayazai will never admit it. Assistant Betty saw a few people and poured water for everyone. "Are you friends with Kristen?" "Yes." "If you are Kristen's friends, please advise her to let it go. We have encountered a very difficult lawsuit. This time the defendant seems to be the boss of some gang. I heard it is very fierce. I went out at noon. At that time, I felt like someone was following me, but luckily I ran away smartly." The eldest sister, "Well, Kristen said that this lawsuit should be left to her, and she said that she would solve it in her own way, which I find hard to understand." Assistant Betty described what happened. After Guam heard the story, she smiled sarcastically. Washington may not say anything to his assistant, and even the assistant may not know that she is a ship girl, but Guam knows. Guam pulled Sugu's clothes and whispered, "Maybe Washington, armed with an axe, will come directly to reason. It may not be impossible for Washington to come to someone's door with an axe in his hand and want to reason with someone, to talk about Washington's principles." Sugu remembered hearing something from Guam, and that was something Guam heard from Washington. It was not clear how true it was. What happened was that Washington, as a lawyer, found someone to negotiate, which was an atypical negotiation. Because the other party has some power and wants to do something threatening. Then Washington put his axe on the table and said, "Otherwise, kill me." Such words, to outsiders, make people feel the misery in the speaker's heart. However, the final result certainly does not need to be said. All those who wanted to cause trouble were chopped down by Washington, and then the matter ended like this. We no longer need to go to court to litigate, and we have received all the compensation we deserve. As for whether he encountered retaliation afterwards, Guam said he didn't know much because he didn't ask. But now that Washington is doing well, the lawsuit must be perfectly resolved in the end. After all, a submachine gun hit on Washington was probably as painful as a BB bullet hitting a person with his clothes on. Think about it again, with Washington's armor, even if you use howitzers or mortars, it is basically difficult to cause damage. Sugu said, "Let's go to that bar." At the end of Aries Street, in front of the bar called Seabed, whose Chinese name is translated, Washington stood there. The weather was hot. She wore a shirt and trousers with sandals, white gloves on her hands, and sunglasses hanging from the collar of her clothes. She looked like a sexy beauty. This is it. As a lawyer, how could Washington not even know what his defendant's occupation was and what he had done? There are many gangs in Gasca, and the opponent is the boss of one of them. Although he is said to be the boss, the other party is just the boss of a small gang. Now he mainly runs a bar and does some flesh and drug business. Since you have already kidnapped, since you have used guns, there is nothing I can do. In fact, she likes to use civilized people's methods, and civilized people use civilized people's methods. No matter how bad things are, as long as you obey the rules, you will obey the rules. You are very good at taking advantage of loopholes in the law, and it doesn't matter even if you turn black into white. If you can't bring people to justice, it's because you're not up to the standard. But since you want to use violence to solve problems, of course you won't abide by the rules. When it comes to violence, I have never been afraid. Come over and solve the problem, now the Washington way. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 418. Wear white gloves on purpose to avoid getting your hands dirty when the time comes. Washington was about to walk into the bar, but before she could walk in, a man who had been standing next to the ice cream cart selling ice cream for a long time hurried over. The man was holding a cone in his hand and eating it as he walked. Gangsters eat cones, but there has never been any rule that gangsters and mafia are not allowed to eat cones. What are you doing here? The bar is also open during the day, but there are usually not many customers during the day. Even if there are, most of them are acquaintances. Whether you are a regular customer or a stranger, there is no reason to stop customers when doing business. But the woman in front of her was different. Rather than being a customer, there was no reason for a customer to walk into the bar carrying an axe. As a member of the mafia, he often saw some women playing with knives and guns, but women using axes were rare. Sometimes I feel that such a woman is very tough, thinking that it must be difficult to conquer such a fierce horse. Occasionally, they would also discuss, after riding on such a woman, if you repay the favor, what kind of means would be used. The revenge must be terrible. Now he looked at the woman in front of him, thinking that maybe someone had played with her, then abandoned her, and now she came here to cause trouble. Although the other party is conservatively dressed, both appearance and figure are very on point, rather than particularly on point. So is this girl abandoned by a customer in the bar, or is it a girl from a mafia buddy? I think so. Of course, even if you come here to seek revenge, there is no reason for you to carry an axe into the bar. Let's go, let's go. This is not the place you should be. If you need anything, go outside and solve it. Washington was holding the axe. She looked at the man holding the cone and said, "I'm looking for your boss, let's call him Reggie or something, it seems to be a name like this. Anyway, you tell him to get out." "Our boss." It seemed that his boss was the cause of the matter, because this kind of thing had not happened before. But get out? Although the man has no concept of humiliating his subjects to death, as a younger brother, if he doesn't show anything at this time, if others find out, the end will probably not be much better. However, after all, the woman may be the boss. If they quarrel, as the younger brother, I can't get involved. After thinking about it like this, the man said, if you come to our boss, I can shout for you, but put your axe down. Washington didn't have a good face. She didn't want to waste too much time in front of a little brother. She came here to reason. She said, it has nothing to do with you. Being looked down upon like this was like looking at some humble insect. The man was also a little annoyed. He said with a sullen face, whether you are one of those women who was abandoned by the boss or an enemy, you came here and took the wrong road. That's right, it's him, let him get out, and what kind of woman, please say another word. If you don't leave, I'll hit someone. What's the matter with you coming here? She was actually misunderstood as a woman who was a gangster boss, but she still came here to seek revenge. Washington was unhappy for a while, and she continued, get out of the way, it's none of your business, don't bring trouble to yourself. Being despised one after another, after hearing the next words, the other party didn't seem like the boss woman. Are you sick? As the man said this, he stretched out his hand to push away the arrogant woman in front of him. A lot of time had been wasted, and Washington was already feeling a little impatient. At this time, she saw that the other person stretched out his hand and actually wanted to touch her. She quickly grabbed the wrist of the outstretched arm and folded it. As a ship girl, she has great power with just a little use of her ship's equipment. Humans are like insects in front of such power. Of course, she has a good command of strength, and she will not break people's hand bones in one fell swoop. The man stretched out his hand, but his wrist was grabbed by Washington. The powerful force is not something that ordinary people can contend with. Feeling the power coming from his arms, it was difficult for him to resist for a moment. He almost knelt down, and finally managed to maintain a certain embarrassing posture. Washington said, where is your boss? Inside the bar. Washington came here to reason, and would not beat anyone down when she saw him. Then she took away the man's wrist and said coldly, go away, even if you want to continue working in a promising career like a gangster, but starting from today, let's change the boss. And don't even think about touching your pocket, it's just a butterfly knife. And if you use the knife, the nature will be different. Washington let go of his hand, but since he was a gangster, how could a man give in so easily? He reached out and touched his waist. At this time, Washington did not use her axe. Instead, she hit the man on the head with a potted plant placed nearby. Ceramic flower pots shattered and soil flew everywhere. The man fell to the ground. Washington shrugged and said to himself, I am a lawyer. I am the most legal person. I don't like to use force. I don't want to do this kind of thing, but you went too far and actually used a gun. That is a foul. Since you committed the foul first, there is nothing I can do about it. You can't let everyone come over and bully you. I'm not afraid, but it would be troublesome if there are too many such things. With that said, Washington clapped his hands and walked into the bar. The bar is still open during the day, but compared to the bustle at night, there are basically no customers now. The bald man and his younger brother were sitting in front of a wine table with 2 large bottles of beer on them and many empty bottles under the table. They haven't come back yet, so they can't meet the police. The bald man said, Billy has no brains, and Gordon is pretty reliable. As long as he is around, there will be no problem, and he brings a gun. If you use a gun, the cops won't care about it? That's a different nature. So you are too timid to eat this bowl of rice. There are many things where guns are used. In the past, when everyone used guns to fight the Simpson family, No weapons were used. The boss also got a rocket launcher, although in the end it's useless. I really don't dare to use that. A lot of weapons were used, and many people died in the end. What if those policemen came over afterwards? Things were already like that. The boss just handed over a cigarette and said a few nice words, and then the second the daily newspaper just said gang brawl and that's it. After the bald man said this, he touched his head and said, "Speaking of which, Billy and Gordon should be back by now. Does it really take that long to kidnap a little girl? I'm not back now. I hope something unexpected happens. That guy Gordon is always awesome." That's true, I think so too. On the surface, the underworld is all about loyalty, but since you are working this way, if you really believe in loyalty, you won't even know you were betrayed. A really villain is a real villain, a really bad guy is a really bad guy, there are no good guys among gangsters. Although we usually call each other brothers and sisters, I still hope that you won't block my future. The two people were talking like this, when they suddenly heard screams. Where did the scream come from? It seemed to be John's voice. Someone came in. Would you like to go over and take a look? Walk. They walked to the door of the bar, and then they saw a white-haired beauty with her arms folded across her chest. She stretched out her hand to pick up her bangs handsomely, then stretched out a finger to shake it and said, "I'm looking for your boss, Leiji, idlers go away." The bald man was considered a small leader. He had met Washington when he went to threaten him, and now he whispered to the younger brother beside him, "This is the lawyer who refuses to take any advice." "What lawyer? She has an axe." The bald man said, "Where's John?" Washington sneered, did not answer, and repeated, "I'm looking for your boss." "Damn it, bitch, you have no shame." The bald man rushed forward. After all, he ran to the bar with an axe. How could he forget about it? He wanted to slap him. However, before he could take action, he was greeted by a whip kick. The whip kick kicked him away and he fell on the table not far away. Just like that, the bald man fell onto the table first, then rolled onto the ground, spilling his drink all over the floor. Washington said, "I'm looking for Reggie to ask him something. There happens to be a lawsuit that needs him to handle, and I don't want to go to court." There were only a few people in the bar, some were gang members, and others were just customers who came in to drink. Revenge? I don't know, but it's a little too bold for a woman to come here like this. In the midst of the discussion, they saw another person being kicked away by the woman. Looking for the lost ship girl. Author, Hai-De-Rong Yan. Chapter 419. As the gang boss Reggie, he felt a little bit difficult to deal with. A woman rushed into the bar. It was said that she was the lawyer who was going to litigate with him a few days ago. I originally thought that the other party had some background as a lawyer, but a few days ago he brought someone to the door, hoping that the other party would drop the lawsuit and let the past go. In fact, regardless of the background, after all, even if you are a gangster, you may not necessarily like to fight and kill. Although it is refreshing to fight and kill, people will be injured or killed. The so-called killing is just to get money and women. If there is a way to get money without killing, even if it is to do charity, I will go back. However, the other party didn't seem to be interested in his proposal at all, and he didn't even bother to deal with it, so he said harsh words at that time. Later, he sent his men to kidnap the other party's relative, who seemed to be his sister, and then sent people to follow the other party's assistant. He didn't take action against me. Although I heard that the other party seemed to have some skills, it wasn't because of this at all that he didn't take action. Mainly because it's not interesting. It's more interesting to attack people directly than to make them feel a little bit desperate. This may allow the other party to know his strength, and he may not bow to him in the future. From any angle, the female lawyer is still very beautiful. Not only is she very beautiful, but she is also very capable as a lawyer. It would be best if such a person could become his own woman. The underworld doesn't respect the law. As long as it can achieve its own goals, it doesn't matter what means it uses. Being a bad person for the sake of being a bad person is a fool. Kidnapping cases have not been done once or twice in the past, nor have they been missed twice, but this time things are a little strange. His men Gordon and Billy went out in the morning, and it was almost afternoon now, and they had not returned yet. The kidnapping failed and the target escaped. There must be a word. However, there has been no news until now. It was almost noon until noon. I just ate some vegetable salad at noon and lost my appetite. However, I drank a bottle of red wine later. After drinking, I wanted to rest, so I just lay on the bed, and then I heard a noise. It seemed that something happened in the bar, as if someone was making trouble. Then someone came over to report that someone was coming to cause trouble. He quickly asked how many people there were, and the answer was only one woman. What is a woman doing here? I haven't done anything to force anyone in these years. Most women throw some money and crawl into bed by themselves. It was strange, but then I knew who that person was. The woman who came to make trouble was the female lawyer that she and others threatened a few days ago. Why did she come here? Probably Gordon and Billy did something wrong and people found out about it. They were two idiots. However, she dared to come here by herself instead of causing trouble for her. She was really bold. Was she mistaking her pity for weakness? Or did she really think that she had learned a lot of skills and imitated the plot in the movie? If she wants it, then just kill her, such a simple thing. However, things are not that simple. John was knocked down by her, as well as Martin and his little brother. Their heads were bleeding. Who in the underworld doesn't bleed? I have more stitches on my forehead than on your clothes. You can't even deal with a woman. What's the use of you? Do I need to take action? You idiot. It's not that he can't fight, although in fact he has long passed the age of being able to fight. In recent years, I have gained some fame. Although I still exercise from time to time, I have already developed a big belly. Now that I can continue to be here, I have some connections with the police station, a few loyal people under my command, and the dignity I have accumulated in the past. However, even so, he has lost his previous vigor and just wants to stay in the bar peacefully. She is very powerful. She probably learned taekwondo or free fighting. They said some of that woman's techniques were passed down from the army. Junti fist. No matter how powerful Junti fist is, you don't know how to use bats or steel rods. Otherwise, you will use knives and carry chairs to hit her. Then let her pay for it. She had an axe. Axe, we didn't use it when we were fighting. I used to use a machete. Now I still have a machete in the room. She uses an axe and you don't know how to get an axe. There is nothing in the weapons depot. Go get it. Wait, don't use your gun yet. Others are using axes. It's too embarrassing for us to use guns. This is our bar, so we don't want people to watch the excitement. Besides, even if she holds an axe, does she really dare to hack you to death? It's just a scare. Get out. No matter how powerful a woman can be, she is just worried that such things will make the business in the bar difficult, or she is worried that other gangs will see the fun. Just because a woman made things so big is enough. It seemed that he couldn't sleep at noon, so he sat by the bed and played with an antique that was said to have been passed down from the East and was quite rare in the old world. However, rubbing the smooth porcelain surface of the antique became more and more annoying, and then he decided to go out and take a look. Go out from the room behind the bar and see the supposedly powerful female lawyer in the lobby. The hall was in chaos. Many people fell to the ground, wailing and struggling like shrimps. Those were all his own men. A table was kicked away, and his subordinate Siegel threw a metal chair at the woman. He imagined the bloody scene that would follow, and he couldn't bear to watch it. Siegel is a full 1.9 meters tall and has the strongest strength in the bar. Even without using hot weapons, he is powerful and dares to fight. He has always been the vanguard in the battle for territory. In the past, when occupying territory, a machete was always used. I remember one time when my arm was shot through with a gun, I still used the machete to hit me at the end. However, at this time, all he saw was Siegel throwing a metal chair at him, and then the woman took the chair down with one hand. What a joke! Siegel's strength combined with the force of his swing would actually lead to him being caught. However, things just happen and people can't figure out the situation. Then I saw the female lawyer kicking her. Boom! As a strong man with a height of 1.9 meters, Siegel often goes to the gym and does a lot of fighting and killing. He weighs more than 100 kilograms. Normally, it would be okay for such a strong man to be kicked by women who were several sizes smaller than him. However, now he was directly kicked by the woman and was kicked several meters away. Martin, Siegel, and Zachary, the most capable men in the gang, now cannot survive a round under the hands of the female lawyer. Jack threw a right uppercut, was caught, and then received a slap in the face. He spun around twice and fell to the ground. Logan rushed forward with a machete, but was caught with an axe. The heavy-looking axe seemed to have no weight. He hit Logan on the back of the head with his backhand, and another one fell down. That rumor is probably true, the other party is really good at kung fu. In the past, I heard rumors that some people wanted to attack the female lawyers in front of them and then kill them all. At that time, I thought it was ridiculous, but now I thought it was probably true, without any exaggeration or falsehood. Now I just want to say, you are so great, why should you be a lawyer? And how can a lawyer look like this? If you say he is a lawyer, you might as well say he is a gangster. This look is even more gangster than his own gangster. It can't go on like this, it can't go on like this. Bazooka, no, we can't use it here. Blake, go get the typewriter. No matter how powerful she is, her flesh and blood can still block bullets. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw the female lawyer lifting the booth sofa with one hand and throwing it over from a distance of 7 to 8 meters and nearly 10 meters. Such a heavy booth sofa would be difficult for one person to pick up under normal circumstances, but she actually lifted it up with one hand and threw it so far. Just kidding, monster. No matter what, I have to run away first. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai-De-Rong Yan. Chapter 420. Washington's assistant Betty told several people the address of the bar, and then left the building. Sugu took Richelieu, Akage, and Guam to plan to go to the bar called Seabed. However, the bar is quite far away, so at least it will take a lot of time to walk there. There are many oaks and poplars planted on the trees on Jaska Street. A few people walked under the shade of the trees. The sunlight passed through the gaps between the trees and the light spots reflected on them. They walked towards their destination while looking at the road. Are there taxis? Washington seemed to be doing something very dangerous, but in fact, for a few people, there wasn't much to worry about. No matter what Washington does, as a ship girl, it is impossible to be defeated by a few ordinary people, even if those are extremely vicious gangsters, and even if they have heavy firepower. Speaking of other aspects, Washington should be considered a reliable person in terms of game dialogue and word of mouth. She should be measured in her actions and not as weak as Kent. Besides, even if something really gets out of hand, you can still deal with it as long as you are here, and of course you have to protect your ship girl. Sugu said, "Do you think Washington will do something? Or will it just come to negotiate?" Guam said, "Admiral, you should know Washington's negotiation style. Think about the coffee table in the Admiral's room. Sugu suddenly remembered the axe on the coffee table in the Admiral's mansion in the game. Although North Carolina also has an axe, her axe is an Indian tomahawk. Obviously, the axe on the coffee table in the Admiral's room in the game is Washington's axe. Washington's axe, Washington's principles, that's all. Sugu didn't know the taxi habits here. After walking for a few minutes, he saw a black car passing by and Guam reached out to hail a taxi. Several people got into the car, and then the black car turned east and west on the street. Taxi drivers are often the most talkative, and Sugu dealt with the drivers' conversations casually. There were not many cars on the street and there were no traffic lights. We quickly arrived at our destination bar. Sugu soon saw Washington's truth, because he saw a man lying on the ground at the door of the bar. It looked a bit miserable, with blood on his forehead, mud on his body, broken porcelain pieces all over the floor, and an evergreen tree standing next to him. Even though Sugu was not a criminal investigator, seeing the other party's appearance, he could guess who was carrying a potted plant and smashing it on the forehead with a simple and crude action. Sugu said, "Washington's masterpiece." "Have no idea." Akaga said, "Admiral, why do you look so sad?" Sugu said, "I haven't done anything to feel sorry for Washington." "What do you think?" Sugu felt a little guilty. Entering through the door of the bar and walking into the bar, the light inside seemed a little dim. I got used to the light inside a little. Sugu saw a mess in the hall. The booths, seats, and sofas were all overturned, and many people were still lying on the ground still wailing and moaning. Only a few frightened birds and melon-eating people were seen at the door. Sugu found a woman who looked a little excited and asked, "Hello, let me ask, what's going on here?" A woman with white hair killed everyone by herself. "She's so handsome." She was still boxing as she spoke. "The white hair looks like Washington." Sugu thought to himself, "You look like a slut." Sugu said, "Then where did that person go?" "Going after him, hunting down the gang boss Reggie." "Is that so? Well, if the situation here is like this, won't you leave?" "If you don't leave, I'm still waiting for her to come out and ask her for her contact address." Sugu didn't want to deal with that nymphomaniac-looking short-haired woman anymore. He couldn't bear to leave even after fighting like this. Then he led a few people inside. Stepping on the broken wine bottles, stepping over the overturned seats, and going deep into the bar, Sugu said, "Washington hit her. She was too aggressive." Guam shrugged her shoulders. Her gesture was very cute, but Sugu was not in the mood to appreciate it. She said, "That's what Washington is like. She does what she thinks is right." Richelieu said, "Admiral, you look very worried." "I was wondering what I should say when we meet." "Washington wouldn't dare do anything to you, and I will protect you." "I know you will protect me, but Richelieu, you really don't have to hold my hand." "I'm not that scared yet." After going deep into the bar, I searched 2 places but couldn't find Washington. There was no one in either the tool room or the wine warehouse. Then I suddenly heard a noise coming from not far away. Looking in the direction of the noise, Sugu immediately saw Washington. It was a room with many craters on the walls, and all the tables and chairs were overturned. Washington was holding an axe and stepping on a table, with a person kneeling in front of her. This scene was really scary. Sugulian recalled the people he saw lying on the ground in a mess in the bar. They all said that they were American imperialist gangsters. At this time, people had to believe that Washington, the gang leader. Even if many people say that the Enterprise is the boss or the eldest gangster of us imperialism, then Washington can at least be regarded as a double bonus. Each ship girl has her own personality. For example, the Prince of Wales was locked up when he first saw him. So what will happen to you when you meet Washington this time? Worrying. At the same time, Washington also saw Sugu, and by the way, Guam. Guam was very familiar, and they didn't have much time apart. The other woman with long blonde hair is probably Richelieu. Although I'm not familiar with her, I can't admit her mistake. There is another person who is somewhat familiar, but not very familiar. She was trying to reason with the gang boss, but she was a little stunned when she saw this scene, and blurted out almost subconsciously. "Admiral! Why are you here?" Sugu lowered his head slightly. Before he could speak, the man kneeling on the ground spoke. As a gang boss, he still knows a lot about many things. The person in front of him is so powerful. He couldn't figure it out at first, but now he heard the word admiral and immediately figured out that she was a ship girl. She is a ship girl, that's why she is so powerful. Since she is a ship girl, then the little girl in her family is also a ship girl. No wonder Billy and Gordon went to kidnap her, but now there is no news at all. You're kidding, kidnapping a ship girl is looking for death. No wonder the other party came here alone today, and no one could stand a chance against her, not even the most powerful person in her own gang. The ship girl, the steel monster, is not something that ordinary people can fight against. If she loses unfairly, well, actually she loses very unfairly. Thinking of this, the gang boss who dominated the entire street also had a wronged expression on his face. "What, you are ship girls and admirals, you are so good as ship girls, what are you doing as lawyers? Shouldn't you be dealing with those deep-sea ship girls, the great enemy of mankind? And you seem to be surprised when you meet. Could it be that you are the ship girl who ran away from home, and now the admiral has come to visit? Hey, hurry up and go back to the governor's mansion, and then we can spend the day in front of the moon or under the moon, whatever. You guys." His voice now sounded extremely aggrieved. Although he knew that the person in front of him was a ship girl and an admiral, he had no intention of revenge. Although the ship girl and the admiral are not allowed to interfere with matters between humans, she is really just a little bug in the eyes of those big shots. The ship girl is in charge. If no one speaks for herself, then who will put pressure on her? If the ship girl and the admiral don't become members or officials, everything will be fine. No one would care about such a trivial matter. At most, the gendarmerie would cause trouble, but there would be no big trouble. Anyway, now he just wants these people to leave quickly. You admirals, you ship girls, why do you care about such things? What kind of lawyers do you think you are? As a gang boss, he was crying like this, but no one actually cared about his words. Washington didn't show much emotion. She just glanced at Sugu, then looked at the so-called gang boss kneeling in front of her, and said, "You don't need to worry about what I do, and you were the first to do it, so I think you kicked the iron plate. You are not the one anyway, you are a good person. If you encounter something like this, it is retribution. Just take care of it. Wait until you turn yourself in. I don't want to come here a second time. Get out." After the gang boss left, Sugu looked at Washington. After all, he was a man who had experienced many battles. He was silent for a moment. "Well, Washington, we met. Well, I originally encountered an accident and I couldn't control it, but I'm back now." Washington looked at Sugu. As a lawyer, she used to treat everything in a business-like manner. When speaking in court, his words are often sharp. Do something firmly and never hesitate or change. Even if someone keeps trying to persuade people to think about the overall situation, to reduce major issues to trivial matters, and then try to make people let go of some illegal things, they will often be rejected. Since she agreed to take on the lawsuit, she will work hard and determine that the other party is wrong, so she will let people get the justice they deserve. This is her character. However, the person in front of him at this time was his admiral, who had indeed been missing for a long time. As a ship girl, she is very angry, but she is not an unreasonable little girl and understands many irresistible things. Since her admiral said that she encountered an accident, she believed him. She would not use the special ability of a ship girl to observe the truth of words. A ship girl can guard against anyone, but if she can guard against even her own admiral, her life will be really boring. Of course, even if you can understand it, it's hard not to be angry. It's really hard. Sugu looked genuine, but there was no excitement at all on Washington's face. Sugu thought to himself, Washington, you are also my favorite ship girl, at least you should show some emotion. I have worked very hard to hold back these words. Suddenly something occurred to me, what words are the most resistant to women? Sugu said, I knew you were here from Rabbit, and then I couldn't wait to come over. Finally I saw you. You will go back with me, return to our townhouse, and live together. Washington, I miss you and love you. After saying that, Sugu was shamelessly kicked by Guam. Washington listened to Sugu's words and thought to himself, Admiral, you are just talking about thoughts and love right here, you are just as shameless as before. With this thought in mind, Washington finally put away his axe. Looking for the Lost Ship Girl. Author, Hai De Rong Yan. Chapter 421. Go out from the bar and walk under the mottled shadows of the trees on the street. Washington told Sugu the reason why she came here to kill people this time. After all, he was his admiral, and he was worried that as a human being, he might have sympathy for those gangsters. Washington didn't want to leave any knots or grudges with her admiral. She especially hated the plots in novels. When faced with misunderstandings, she could obviously explain them clearly, but she refused to explain them because of face or other reasons, and then many things happened. Admiral, do you know what they did? They actually sent people to kidnap North Carolina. If it weren't for the fact that North Carolina is also a ship girl, I don't know what would have happened at this time. They are not good people, even apart from this matter things, they also did a lot of criminal things. It's just that I am not a hero of justice. Everyone has everyone's responsibility. I am a lawyer, not a policeman. I didn't care before, but this time they got on my head. Sugu didn't have any cancer, and he had no sympathy for the gangsters lying on the floor of the bar wailing. Compared to these small things, he was more worried about other aspects. While ship girls have great power, they also have great limitations in their lives in human society. The pressure brought by the strong power of the ship girl will make people think, the ship girl will deal with him today, and she will deal with me tomorrow. Then many people may form a group, and these people will put pressure on the government, and the government will put pressure on the ship girl headquarters, and then the pressure will be fed back to each garrison and each ship girl. Of course, Sugu knew what happened. No matter which way you look at it, there is no problem for Washington to fight like this when something like this happens. And even though they were in a group, Washington did not take action against the capitalists, but only taught the blind gangsters a lesson. How can a small gangster put pressure on the government? It's just that outsiders are not worried. As a person involved, Sugu is still a little worried. After all, he doesn't want any accidents to happen. Sugu said, I'm just afraid of the gendarmerie. I don't know anyone here. Washington smiled brightly. If Sugu hadn't seen her holding an axe just now, he would probably think that she was very kind. Washington said, I didn't come here to fight, I came here to reason. But if they wanted to beat me, I had no choice but to resist. Since they were the ones who came up to beat me, I fought back. It wasn't an active attack, and no one could pick a thorn. I simply knocked down those who used wooden sticks, and broke their bones with knives and guns. If they tried to escape, I didn't care. It was just self-defense. Sugu was listening to Washington's talk, so he said that Washington was a lawyer after all, and no matter what he did, he would not give anyone any clues. Richelieu hesitated and said, if you beat someone like that, Will it have any impact on you if you do such a thing? Ship girls harm ordinary people, and the political influence is external pressure. In addition to these, this kind of thing actually has an impact on the personal heart of the ship girl. Most ship girls are kind-hearted. Many times, even if they are right and others are wrong, as long as others persist, they will wonder if they have done something wrong. If you hurt someone, even if it's just unintentionally, it often leads to self-blame. Richelieu was worried that Washington might not think too much about it when he took action, but then blamed himself afterwards for hurting someone. Washington waved his hand and said, "It's okay, it doesn't matter as long as they are not beaten to death. I thought about it carefully before coming here. Besides, they are gangsters, so I don't have any pressure." After Washington finished speaking, she looked at Akagi. She now got to know Akagi again. "Akagi, you have completely changed your appearance, and you are actually on a wedding anniversary." Guam and Sugu were walking behind now. Guam whispered, "How do you feel, Admiral, after meeting Washington?" Although he knew that as Admiral, Washington would not take action on his own, he was afraid that he would do something wrong in Washington's hands. Sugu said, "I feel a little stressed." Washington always puts on gloves before fighting to avoid getting her hands dirty. So when the Admiral sees her wearing gloves, he is either preparing to attack or is about to take action. It is best to avoid it. Thanks for the reminder. Actually, you can call me sister, and I can protect you. You think too much. I have Richelieu, and you can't compare to Richelieu. The Admiral said that. I'm so sad. Speaking of which, who is better, Richelieu or Washington? One uses an axe and the other uses a sword. Sugu said, I don't know. Washington was a glass cannon, but Richelieu wasn't particularly outstanding. An old man walking with his dog came up in front of him. Sugu and others stepped aside on the side of the street to let others go first. Guam looked at the big dog held by the old man and asked, "What kind of dog is that?" "It's very cute." Sugu said, "That's Alaska." Guam's expression was a little embarrassed. Then everyone walked up a slope along the street. Seeing Sugu and Guam lagging behind, Washington turned back and said, "Admiral and Guam, what are you mumbling in the back?" Sugu said, "It's nothing. Speaking of which, I was thinking about South Dakota. Where is she now? I heard she was fired." Speaking of South Dakota, Washington's face was full of contempt and disdain. "Ask South Dakota how fat he is. This is a convenience store. What about you?" The clerk with brown hair tied into a single ponytail looked at his companion. "Nothing." Another clerk next to the shelf stretched out his finger and rubbed her small nose, and then she sneezed. "Maybe someone is thinking about you. After all, you have so many suitors. They are so troublesome. I'm already married." The clerk who spoke had long silver hair that was as thick and slightly curly as seaweed. He was not very tall, and his figure looked a little fat. In fact, he was not fat, he could only be considered very fleshy. Many people apply sunscreen as various protective measures and then expose themselves to the sun. She was born with the wheat-colored skin that they worked so hard to achieve. Such a short but fleshy figure, paired with wheat-colored skin. Generally speaking, this shop assistant gives people a very cute feeling. Just by staying in the store, you can attract a lot of customers, even though many of them are drunkards and don't care about drinking. She has a name named Anna, which was a new name given a few months ago, and she also has a name named South Dakota. Maybe the white-haired woman from last time was thinking about you. South Dakota said, "Don't talk about her, hearing her name makes me sick." "It makes me sick." However, no matter how much South Dakota complained, the ponytailed clerk didn't care. She said, "What is your relationship with her? Did you have any conflicts before? As long as she is here, she will see you quarreling every time. Her name is—" "What's the name?" It seems to be Christine, and why does she call you South Dakota fat every time? Peyton, I've told you this many times. Don't call me South Dakota fat. Don't call me South Dakota fat. South Dakota thumped the shelf and shouted. So what's going on with you guys? Peyton looked at her companion. She was always clumsy. Even if she is just stocking the shelves, she will often mess up something as simple as stocking the shelves, and then always say something like, I don't want to do this either. No one wants to break things, I just want you to be more careful next time. Although he is clumsy, he has one thing that is particularly good, he has a good temper. Even if you tease her occasionally or laugh at her for being fat, she won't be angry. However, even with such a good temper, there are also special moments. For example, when a white-haired woman enters the store, the two of them will definitely quarrel. It was just a quarrel, but the two of them felt like old acquaintances. Although they only had a brief exchange with the white-haired woman, they learned that the white-haired woman was actually a barrister. I once consulted her on some legal matters and received very good help. I felt that she was someone who was easy to get along with and that they should not have conflicts. Moreover, no matter how you think about it, there should be no possibility of conflict between the two people. But the female lawyer named Christine would come over every once in a while to tease her. South Dakota said, I don't know her, she always bothers me. Let me tell you, she is a pervert, a big pervert. Peyton said, you should know each other, don't lie to me. Isn't there always a little girl asking you to go to dinner? Isn't that little girl the sister of that person? This sentence suddenly hit South Dakota's pain point. She quickly explained and said, no, that little girl is my sister, I don't have any conflicts with her. If she comes to invite me to dinner, I can't help but go. North Carolina asked herself to go to dinner. She didn't want to eat with that hateful woman, but it was rare to have a big meal. If you eat for free, don't eat for free. Who doesn't want to eat for free? South Dakota seemed to have distanced herself from the relationship, and Peyton was helpless. She also knew not to ask anything from her companion. She curled her lips and said, hypocritical person. Forget it, I won't tell you anymore, I have to do my own thing. I just think she is very handsome and want to get to know her. It would be best if she is a man. After Peyton finished speaking, she continued to do her own thing. There were a lot of things going on in the convenience store and she couldn't slack off. When South Dakota heard her companion's words, she said, she is not handsome at all. I also think she is the best among men. Washington was a man, so no one would compete with him for the admiralship. Admiral, thinking about her admiral, she began to feel dazed. On the other side, Peyton was busy for a while. He turned around and saw his companion standing next to the cashier doing nothing. Now there are obviously no guests, and I am so busy that I almost fly into the sky and escape, but you are beside me and don't know how to help me, just in a daze. Peyton said, what are you doing? South Dakota woke up suddenly and said, I'm thinking about my husband. No wonder you always refuse invitations from others, but I haven't met your husband yet. He's not here. How could you see him? He's out of town, let me show you our vow ring. Saying this, South Dakota stretched out his hand. There was a ring on it, with a bright diamond in the center. You always think about your husband. I have a way to make you stop thinking about your husband. Help me move these boxes into the warehouse, thank you for your hard work, hee hee.